Good morning, Americans. This is your favorite alien, sitting in for Paul Harvey today on Saturday, February 19th, 2021. And I just want to conclude a video I started yesterday on Abraham Lincoln. And today, it's Abraham Lincoln and coexistence. And this is what you Americans never understood about President Lincoln. He knew what was wrong with the American system, yet nobody followed him. Even today, nobody understands him. And that's part of yesterday's Understanding President Lincoln. The examples are going to be as follows. And I hope Mr. Harvey up there with the boss and Mr. Paul Harvey Jr. here, if you get a chance to read this video, that you understand why sitting in for Paul Harvey today, I am doing this video for Abraham Lincoln. Mr. Harvey had a good impression of Mr. Lincoln. He put him up as one of the better presidents that the United States ever had. And I would have to say he's up in the top one. George Washington, of course, close second. But Abraham Lincoln was never allowed to finish what he started. George Washington, in his farewell address of 1797, told the people, this is what you got to do or you're going to end up in trouble. Well, President Lincoln inherited that trouble. When President Lincoln became presidential candidate in 1860 for the upstart Republican Party, he wasn't an abolitionist. He wasn't a anti-slavery. He wasn't a radical Republican. He was Abraham Lincoln American. And that irked a lot of people. And he also did a lot of things that made people kind of doubt him when he formed his cabinet and put people like William Seward, the Secretary of State, and especially Edwin Stanton, the Secretary of War. Edwin Stanton was as far removed from Abraham Lincoln as you could get. I mean, if you want an opposite of Abraham Lincoln, Stanton would have been on the other end of the world, or the universe, compared to Abraham Lincoln. But Lincoln understood that you had to make things work. And to a certain extent, it worked between him and Stanton. The closest thing I can say between Abraham Lincoln and Edwin Stanton would be Andrew Carnegie hiring Henry Frick. And those of you who don't know Henry Frick, look him up. Andrew Carnegie was a guy who lacked the killer instinct. Everybody says, oh, he did this, he did steal, he did all kinds of stuff, yeah. But he wasn't a killer like John D. Rockefeller or Mr. Vanderbilt. Those guys were killers. And J.P. Morgan, oh, he could kill you in a moment. Heck, look at what Mr. Rockefeller did to the railroads. It destroyed them and threw the country into the worst depression, even worse than 1929, that it ever had. Who brought it out? Andrew Carnegie. But he needed a guy like Henry Frick, same as President Lincoln needed a guy like Stanton for the upcoming tribulation that was coming, and he knew what was coming. Soon as he became president, the South started succeeding. And he knew he didn't have the support of the American people for a civil war on the North. Okay? The South was united. They wanted their version. And Abraham Lincoln, for most part, before he became president, he knew that the problem was, especially when he wrote, "A house divided cannot stand" in 1857 and 58. And those of you who don't understand a house divided cannot stand, it's because of your thinking. And that's why it can't stand. And today I can prove Abraham Lincoln right. I live, like I said, in Sterling Court in Deltona, Florida here. Yeah. It's a, what do they call it? Senior living community. Community. And the United States is a federal republic / community. All you Americans who call yourself American, and you don't even know what that word means. I've never seen a people ever in my travels in the universe, as far as that I've explored, and like I said, my race only explored 2% of the galaxy so far. As of 2066, 2% is not much. But in all the travels that I have, or my cohorts have on other ships, we never encountered a society like yours. Yours is close to ours, and maybe ours was that way during our ancestors. I don't know. All we have is hindsight. But yours I can see firsthand. Especially the Americans. You're supposed to be the top dogs on this planet. And Mr. Harvey, if you can hear me out there, this is the problem that President Lincoln had to deal with. Coexistence. How many of you owned a house or an apartment and live in a community like I do, say senior citizens, or you live in a condo complex? Very expensive too, huh? Yeah. But you don't associate with your neighbors. You don't understand them. You do your own thing, they do their own thing. That's not a community. How many of you who own homes know your neighbors? Really? I knew people that own their homes. My parents owned their homes since 1969. My mother's still around. My stepfather isn't. And they've had neighbors that came and went. And over 50 years. And they never knew them per se. It was always an acquaintance. Same as you guys, acquaintance. And there was always something different about them. And here's the problem, Americans. You quote, and a lot of your presidents, even Biden has quoted, the greatness of the American system is the differences that it has. That's also the greatest thing that's going to throw you into extinction and disintegration of the United States. The differences. Because that's all you are. Different. You never bothered to coexist and amalgamate the differences. You need an amalgamation and assimilation and still keep the American ideal alive. But you never did that. President Lincoln knew that that's what's going to happen after the war. Whoever won. If the South won, there wouldn't be no coexistence. There wouldn't be no amalgamation of differences. It's their way or the highway. And if the North won, he was going to try to establish some sort of a system of coexistence and the differences to make the United States better than it was, and at the same time, honor the differences, coexist with them, and amalgamate them into your system. And here you have all kinds of issues. You got pigmentation issues, which started with the slaves, African Americans. But then you had, after the war, and this is what Mr. Lincoln was trying to do, but he never got a chance because he got assassinated because both the Republicans and Democrats did not like the way he was thinking, did not like what he was going to do, his plan to go forward. Edward Stanton, whether it's true or not, the rumors are that he was one of the people assigned to how would you say, kidnap President Lincoln in 1864 and take him to the South for ransom. Yeah, because he wanted to continue the status quo. This sounds like what Gene Roddenberry did with Undiscovered Country, Star Trek 6. And a lot of you hate that movie and don't like Star Trek. But if you see that movie for what it is, not what William Shatner is saying on the thing, but what he is implying on there under Gene Roddenberry, on the dialogue, on the system of the Klingons and the Federation, working together to defuse what Spock was trying to do because they wanted the status quo. And that's what happened to Abraham Lincoln. The conspiracy will never be known who killed him, whether Stanton had a hand in it in the second time or not. Well, but Republicans sure did. The Democrats sure did. They knew the war was over. The Republicans wanted to punish the South. The Democrats wanted to survive the punishment at all cost. The Republicans started Reconstruction with federal troops invading the South. Can you imagine? You did that to Japan. You had the emperor under Douglas MacArthur from 1945 to 1951. And mind you, that goes with a bitter pill of Executive Order 9066. Do you understand what I mean? This is what President Lincoln was trying to tell you guys in his reports there. And he was going to try, after the war ended, you just can't do what the Republicans did to the African Americans. Give them everything they had. From 1866 to 70, they gave them every single thing to become an American citizen. But they weren't an American citizen yet because you got to earn that. They didn't. And you got to amalgamate them into the system. You know how long it took the Irish to get amalgamated? Remember, Irish need not apply. And to this day, there's a lot of people that hate Irish. And St. Patrick's Day is coming up next month. You see what I mean, Americans? And coexistence. Like I said, here, where I live, there is no coexistence here. You got people that want to do their own thing, that look at other people and call them names and expect to survive in the community. And when they get expelled by community members here, like the new sheriff in town, they don't understand why. This is me. This is who I am. No, you live in a community. You got to adopt. You got to coexist. The differences of the community is what makes a community good. If you don't have differences in a community, then you don't have a community. And that's a problem with the United States. You have citizens, but you don't have Americans because everybody's doing their Tom, Dick, and Harry self. Until you understand this, Americans, you will never understand Abraham Lincoln. Sitting in for Paul Harvey. This is your favorite alien saying. A house divided will not stand, and you have been a house divided ever since 1857. And to this day, you're heading for extinction and annihilation. Good day.